All right, so let's talk a little bit about ancient Egypt. Okay. So here's the map that you saw previously of all of the areas where the ancient civilizations began. Okay, so here's a close-up photo showing you Egypt. We're going to talk a little bit about the geography and how the civilization thrived. So Egypt began along the Nile River in North Africa. It was bordered by deserts, which basically isolated and protected it from outsiders. So because it is isolated, people don't really know it's there, and because of the desert, it makes it difficult to get to, which is going to really help them because outsiders can't get to them as easily, which will help them to not be as conquered right now. We will talk about next unit about how they were conquered. Okay, so we talked about flooding and how flooding is really important to these civilizations, and typically we think of floods as bad, but in the ancient Egyptian civilization, the flooding was actually really great because it provided them with fertile soil. So you're talking about desert farmland. So when you think about desert floors, you don't think about farming, but when that river floods, it's going to give you fertile soil, and then you're able to farm and get those crops that you need to sustain your people. Okay, so this shows you a diagram of the flood time, the planting time, and harvesting time. You can pause it here to take a closer look. All right, so let's talk a little bit about lasting contributions. So advanced cities. So cities developed along the Nile River were in Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, which we'll get into a little bit more specifically when we talk about pharaohs and what exactly that means. So you had your specialized workers. Of course, your pharaohs are at the top, and your pharaohs are seen as gods. They are human versions of gods, so they are at the top. Below them, you have your priests and your nobles. Below them, you've got your traders, your artisans, shopkeepers, and scribes. Below them, you've got your farmers, and at the bottom are your unskilled workers. These are the people who are going to build those huge and amazing pyramids. Okay, so pharaohs ruled Egypt as king gods, like I said, and they were thought to control nature because they were so powerful. They are the human version of gods. So not only are they kings, they're gods. So this is an extremely powerful position for them to be in, and we're going to talk about what that looks like in class with their tombs and the things that they brought with them, and just how much people thought that they were extremely, extremely powerful, and they gave them so much, they had so much influence on those in the society. Okay, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Egyptians constructed these wonderful, amazing pyramids with elaborate tombs for their pharaohs. So each of these pyramids was designed by and for pharaohs. Okay, here's a little bit more information about pyramids and mummies. You can see a picture of a mummy there. Of course, the famous King Tut is in the bottom right corner. So take a second and pause this and read through this page. Okay, here's another mummy here of Ramses. He was thought to live to be over 90, which is extremely, extremely long during this time frame. And they were able to tell that by his features. But you could see him there and mummified, which kept their bodies pretty much intact for the most part, especially for the level of science at that time. Okay, Egyptians were polytheistic. They believed the gods controlled all aspects of life. So remember, polytheistic, poly means more than one. So they believed in more than one god. Okay, I'm sure you've heard about their writing before called hieroglyphics. We at first could not find a way to understand the language, but then we found a Rosetta Stone, which was basically like a translator. So that's where there's a company now called Rosetta Stone where you can go to learn new languages, and that company used the name of the Rosetta Stone because that was like our translator to be able to understand the hieroglyphics. Okay, so Napoleon, which we will talk about in a few units down, he was the one that was able to actually find this Rosetta Stone and use it to his advantage to understand what was going on with the ancient Egyptians and transcribe that material. So you can go ahead and pause this here and read through this so that way you gain a little bit more of an understanding. I don't want to read it to you, so you have the option to just go ahead and pause and get that taken care of. All right, so you have at the top hieroglyphics type A, your type B is in the middle, and then you have the Greek at the bottom. Okay, so not only were there pictograms, but it was also a phonetic alphabet that went along with the alphabet. So you can see there you see a few of the pictographs and the alphabet to go along with it. And this is the material that they use, not the material, this is what they put on the different materials and the stones for us to be able to know what was going on during their time. Of course, civilizations must have writing because that's how they keep records, and that's how we're able to know that history occurred, by going back and reading those things. Okay, one of the biggest contributions that Egypt gave us was the 365-day calendar. We have geometry, so you're welcome to them. Because of them, you get to take that wonderful math class a few doors down. Astronomy, and of course the pyramids, which are just amazing works of art. The fact that people, you have to think there were no bulldozers and cranes during that time, so people were actually having to carry those blocks back and forth and back and forth and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, taking mass amounts of people, mass amount of time, effort, and just to see how beautiful and majestic they are is just breathtaking and amazing. The world famous Sphinx. Awesome, guys. Well, that is it for Egypt, and I will see you in class tomorrow where we will go a little bit more deeper into this content and talk about Egypt.